First off, before I start, I see Ghost House as a as a movie poster. Could you guys,
Yes.
before we get into The Long Night, that's one of the things I really want to do after watching The Long Night. I wanted to see Ghost House. Can you guys tell me what will I get from watching that film?
Rich.
I think it's a lot of fun. It's like a very exotic location. It's got some cool moments in it. And Scout kills it. She's great in the movie. So
Scott,
Yeah, I mean, I think if you weekly want, if you like The Long Night, then you'll love Ghost House for sure.
Scott, just from your perspective, you worked with a lot of different filmmakers. What do you love about Rich the most as a collaborator? Because as a cinephile, I really and new to his work, I really loved how this movie was really long on atmosphere and character building, and I usually don't get that from a lot of quote unquote thrillers.
Yeah, Rich is so like well-rounded when it comes to filmmaking. I mean, he's a composer, which I learned. He's an artist as well. He just like has so many talents, and I feel like to make a solid, especially in this genre, to understand, which is kind of like Rob Zombie kind of has like that same sense. Like, he comes from music and he also is very hands-on. It's the same with Rich. Like he's so hands-on with all of the elements of the movie, not just directing. And he's also really great with trusting the actors and vice versa. There's just like that trust there. He just gets it, he gets this genre and he loves it. There's that passion there.
For you, Rich, on the flip side with Scout, I mean, there's a lot of talented character actors out there, and they help anchor a narrative, but there are a few people who can really lead. And what do you see in Scott as just as a collaborator as well as a lead, as someone who can actually really carry a narrative?
well, I mean, I think Scout is just one of the most naturally talented actors I've ever met. I mean, she really just she can just turn it on like a light switch or something. I mean, she's got a very unique ability. And so one of the things I like about Scout is she makes your job easy, because I can trust her to make the right decisions. And if I do need to sort of adjust something, I mean, she just, it's not, there's not a lot of like hemming and hawing and sort of, methody kind of brooding around the set. She's just solid and super professional, and I love it.
Oh.
Scott, how come you're not a brooder? Are you not a natural brooder?
Not at all, not at all, not none over here.
She's
Look,
the least broody actor you'll ever meet.
okay, so you guys had me at hello as soon as I saw the names Deborah, Kara Unger, and Jeff
Mm,
Fahey. Can you just
Oh
talk about
yeah.
having them as part of the ensemble? Because this is just kind of a treat to people who are really fans of cinema, I think.
Yeah.
yeah, I've loved Jeff. Jeff is he is an amazing actor to work with. He's like he comes in, he's well prepared. He kind of, it's kind of like a play for him. He likes to like work the room a bit, and you just kind of follow in his footsteps with whatever he's doing. He's just like one of those actors that knows what he's doing. Comes on, he executes, and he's out, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, we had an what you would call like an 8-page day one day with Jeff, because we only had him for a couple of days, and which is a ton of stuff to shoot, and you're like really worried. I was really worried we weren't going to make our days. And Jeff has this like intensity and this energy where he just pulls the production along, and like really just, I mean, we actually ended early. It was just it was a fun thing to watch and to be part of. And Deborah Kara Unger, I'm a big David Cronenberg fan, and I remember her from Crash. And so when they presented her as an option, I was just like, do you think she'll do it? Because it's like, I had been such a huge fan of that movie. And also like she's in David Fincher's The Game. So she's worked with like the great directors, Fincher and Cronenberg and stuff. So I was a little intimidated, but also kind of excited because, like I said, I mean, Crash is one of my favorite Cronenberg movies, and she's just great in it.
Scott, was this character appealing for you because, in a sense, on a superficial sense, it is a thriller horror type movie, but then on a deeper sense, it's also about a person. We're not going to give too much spoilers away, but a person who's trying to gradually come into her own regarding independence, realizing who she is. Did you find that kind of layers as far as your journey with Rich, with respect to this project?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely what attracted me to it. I mean, she wasn't. We see women in this genre, they're very like victimy, and I say this a lot. And I have played these women before. Help me, help me, help me, help me. And she didn't have that. She had like the strength behind her. And I could relate with Grace, especially with like the family matter of like discovering, like trying to figure out who you are, where you belong, like, to make sense of who you are. And that was something that I was interested in. And there was just this underlining with her that just kind of developed as the movie went along. I mean, she was kind of like this lost being, and you discovered who she was while she was discovering it herself. And I just thought that was really amazing. And she became like this completely different woman by the end of it. And it's kind of like it happened with the audience.
Rich, I'm just basing this not on your body of work, but just on this movie. And I was thinking, this filmmaker, and I looked at your Instagram feed, and you're an artist and you love comics and graphic novels and everything. But growing up, did you realize that horror is more than just gore and cheap scares? Meaning, when you were growing up, did a movie like The Wicker Man or the films of Peter Weir just soak into you, and that helped you become the person you are today? I don't know.
100%. I mean, well, when I was very young, I grew up in the South, and we didn't have access to a lot of art house kind of stuff, but I would read about it in books. And so when I finally, when I was in high school, I got a job at a video store, and I just ate all that stuff up, and in particular, like I've always mentioned this. I mean, the movie that really got me into all of those kind of more surrealist kind of films was like Eraserhead. That was a formative experience in my life. So yeah, but yes. And I've always liked kind of like what people used to consider sort of like despised genres, like as a kid, I loved animation. I loved comic books and things. And when I was young, nobody took that stuff serious. Now it's part of the culture, and horror films are the same thing. It's like people have come around now, I think, to realize that there's much more going on in horror films than, girls being chased by guys with knives. David Scull is a film theorist, and he is written about horror films extensively. And he sort of claims that to really understand a culture, you have to know what it fears. And horror movies are these kind of reflections of what people are terrified of at that moment, or their sort of cultural anxieties.
Now, Scott, I'm now immediately in your camp the last couple of months because you've started up on the audio space regarding a podcast. Can you tell our listeners your journey into the audio world? And yeah, I'm biasly pulling for you guys on that, and I'm definitely subbing as soon as this interview is finished. Tell our listeners about your pod.
Oh yes, so Danielle Harris, who everybody knows in this genre, we're very close. We've gotten very, very close in this genre. I mean, we worked together in 07, 09, and we became almost like sisters. And Danielle and I have quite the personalities together when we're together. And so we decided that we wanted to start this podcast, which is Talk Scary to Me. And I'm very attracted to like Dr. Drew, Loveline, and kind of stuff like that. But we also like the horror genre as well. So we're like, what if we mesh the two? So it's a podcast about like sex and love, and we're reaching out to the viewers, the fan base, and asking those intense questions regarding that stuff. But then we also just kind of learned as the podcast was going on that Danielle and I are very attracted to true crime. So we were like, well, what if we add that element with the horror realm of it? And so you get these two sexy women talking about sex and love and giving advice. And then you also have like that, what we are all attracted to is like the true crime and like the goriness of it all. So it's an interesting podcast, and we're having such a ball doing it.
My final question to you, by the way, I'm just going to name drop my co-host for Cinematics. His name's Anderson Cowan, and he was the primary engineer and producer. I mean, one of the producers, but the primary engineer of Loveline. Just FYI on that. But
awesome.
Yeah, but final question, just requisite question. Just wondering if you guys can each of you name one of your favorite movies, and what is it about this specific film? Not including Eraserhead, but what is it about this film that speaks to you today?
Ooh. I think, a movie. I'm trying to think. I mean, honestly, the movie that comes to mind is The Exorcist. I mean, I remember seeing that when I was very, very little, and it was the first time that I'd ever seen like special effects makeup terrified me. I mean, it was just like super realistic, and also what you weren't seeing, and the goriness of like the way it looked, and also it was stylized very beautifully. And I don't know, there was so many elements of that movie that I enjoyed.
Yeah, for me, you know, boy, it's hard to pick like a favorite movie, especially outside of Eraserhead. But you know, when I was a little kid, I saw the original Night of the Living Dead, the black and white George Romero film. And, you know, I liked horror movies and I would watch them on TV. And that movie had an ending that just blew my mind. I'd never seen an ending like that that was so bleak and so nihilistic and so, but also so politically charged. And it just like, it really messed me up, but in a good way. I mean, I was like, wow, movies can do something else. So
Thank you guys so much for your time. I'm going to end with a horrible dad joke, and I apologize for this, but I actually really want this to happen.
Okay.
Will there be The Longer Night, Rich, and will you hire these script writers to pen another screenplay? Because I want the night to continue. Just
Oh man, I would do it in a heartbeat. Rob Shep wrote our script for us and he did a great job. And I'm sure he would love to do a sequel. So
Yeah, what is Grace Enters the World?
Oh yeah.
All right, thank you guys. Love the movie, by the way. So
All right, thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you,
I
Greg.
appreciate it.
take care.